I was 19 and I thought I had it all figured out. Stupid, right? I grew up in a neighborhood where sirens were louder than lullabies, where you learned to run before you could read. My old man, gone before I turned 10. My mom worked double shifts just to keep the lights on. And me, I was angry. At everything, at the world, at myself. But I was good at hiding it, or so I thought. I hung out with older guys, the kind that never smiled unless they were about to do something real dumb. I wanted to be like them, tough, respected, feared. That felt like power, and I craved it. Then came the night that changed everything. It was cold, I remember that. My hands were shaking, but I told myself it was just adrenaline. Me and two other guys, we planned it quick. A liquor store, late hours, easy cash. No one gets hurt, just in and out. We brought a gun. Not mine, but I didn't say no, didn't walk away. I told myself I wouldn't touch it, that I was just there to watch the door. That lie didn't even last 5 minutes. The clerk looked young, maybe mid-20s. He raised his hands the moment he saw us. But panic? Panic makes people unpredictable. There was shouting. I remember someone yelling, "Hurry the hell up!" The gun was waving. My heart was pounding so loud I could barely hear anything else. And then, bang! No one got hit, just the wall. But the damage was done. We grabbed what we could and ran. Streets were empty, but the city doesn't sleep. Blue lights lit up the alley before we even caught our breath. I froze. The others ran. I didn't. I couldn't. I wish I had. Or maybe I don't. They slammed me to the ground, cuffed me. One of the officers looked at me and said, "You just threw your life away, kid." I didn't believe him. Not until the courtroom. I sat there in an itchy suit, my hands sweating, eyes on the floor. The DA laid it all out. Armed robbery, use of a firearm, endangering a civilian. My public defender said I was young and misguided. The judge didn't care. 17 years. 17 years. I didn't cry. Not right then, not in front of them, but something inside me cracked. A deep, silent kind of breaking, like glass you can't glue back together. When they took me out of that courtroom, my mom was in the back row, sobbing. She wouldn't look at me. That hurt more than the sentence. I remember thinking, this can't be real. This isn't happening. I kept replaying the night in my head, like maybe if I did it enough times, I could find a different ending. But there was no rewind button, just cold bars and a future I couldn't even picture. That was the moment I fell, hard, and no one caught me. They processed me like meat. Fingerprints, mugshot, strip search, numbered uniform, cold instructions barked like I wasn't human. I wasn't ready. I thought I was tough, but prison? Prison doesn't care how tough you think you are. It breaks you down, layer by layer, until all that's left is the truth. My first night, I didn't sleep. Couldn't. The lights never go off completely, and even if they did, the noise would keep you awake. Metal clanging, shouting, someone crying down the hall. You smell fear in there, and blood. The cell was smaller than my childhood bedroom. 2 bunks, 1 toilet, no privacy. My cellmate was a lifer named Rico, tattoos on his face, scars on his hands. He looked at me like he could read every bad decision I ever made. He didn't say much, just handed me a roll of toilet paper and said, "Don't be stupid." That was the welcome. The yard was worse. It's where the rules no one writes down get enforced. Where you learn real quick what colors not to wear, who not to stare at, when to shut your mouth. Fights broke out over nothing. A missed spot in the lunch line, a glance that lasted too long. One time, a guy got stabbed over a radio. I kept my head down. I didn't talk unless I had to. I learned to move like a shadow, there, but not there. Still, I saw things. A guard beating a guy half to death for mouthing off. A kid, younger than me, hanging from a bedsheet before breakfast. Another man, eyes empty, staring at a wall for hours like he was trying to erase himself from existence. You stop being shocked. That's the scariest part. You adapt or you disappear. I joined a janitor crew, sweeping floors, mopping bathrooms. It gave me something to do, somewhere to be. Small victories. Some days that was all I had. Mail call became a ritual of disappointment. At first, my mom wrote every week, then every month. Then, nothing. Friends vanished. Girls moved on. The world outside kept spinning. Mine stood still. There was this old man in D Block. Everyone called him Pops. He'd been down since the 70s. He told me, "In here, time don't pass, it sits on your chest." He was right. Holidays were the worst. Hearing other inmates laugh about Christmas dinners they used to have, getting plastic trays of processed meat and powdered potatoes, pretending you didn't care. But I did. I missed my sister's graduation, my cousin's funeral, my mom's birthday 16 times. You start to feel like a ghost, alive but invisible, breathing but buried. There were moments I almost gave up, almost, but something deep down, maybe pride, maybe guilt, kept me moving. One foot, then the other, eyes open, mouth shut. I wasn't living, not really, but I was surviving. And in a place like that, survival is a kind of victory. It didn't happen all at once. There wasn't some thunderclap moment where the sky opened up and I suddenly saw the light. No, it was slower, quieter, like something whispering to me when the noise faded. It started with a book. Yeah, a book. I was just trying to kill time, drifting through the prison library like a zombie, flipping pages I didn't even read. Same old routine, same numb days. But then this old-timer, Marcus, walked up to me. He was one of those guys nobody messed with. Quiet, watchful, like he saw 10 steps ahead. He looked right at me and said, "You still think you're the victim, don't you?" I froze. He didn't wait for an answer, just dropped a book on the table and walked away. The Long Walk to Freedom, Nelson Mandela. At first I was like, what the hell am I going to do with this? I almost left it there. But something about the title, it got under my skin. That night, back in my cell, I cracked it open. Just a page or two, I told myself, but I kept reading. The way Mandela talked about prison, not as a curse, but as a test, as a fire that forged who he became. It shook me. I started thinking, what if this wasn't the end of me? What if I was wasting the one thing I still had? Time. I couldn't sleep that night. My mind was racing. For years I blamed everyone else. The system, the streets, my father for leaving, the judge for not understanding. I never stopped to look in the mirror long enough to face what I'd done. I robbed a man. I put a gun in his face. I broke my mother's heart. No one made me do it. I did that. And that truth, it hurt more than any prison yard beatdown ever could. The next week, I signed up for the restorative justice program. It wasn't popular. Guys said it was soft, therapy for suckers. But I didn't care anymore. I had nothing to prove to them. The first session, I could barely speak. Sitting in a circle of men, all wearing the same uniforms, all carrying their own wreckage. We weren't just inmates. We were stories, regrets, scars. They asked me to write a letter to the victim of my crime. I stared at that blank page for hours. What do you even say to someone you terrorized? Sorry felt like a joke, but I wrote, slowly, clumsily, honestly. I told him the truth, that I was young, stupid, scared, but that didn't excuse anything. I told him I remembered his face, that I saw it in my dreams, that I carried the weight of that night every single day. I didn't ask for forgiveness. I didn't deserve it. I just wanted him to know I wasn't the same kid anymore. When I finished, my hands were shaking. I cried. Not loud, just quiet tears running down a face that hadn't felt human in years. That was the moment it started. Not freedom, but something just as important. Change. Redemption isn't some golden light that shines down when you decide to be better. It's a grind, a quiet war you fight inside your own head every single day. After that letter, something shifted in me. I started waking up earlier, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. I volunteered for cleaning duty before the guards even called names. I helped new guys find their way, told them what I wish someone had told me. Don't talk loud. Don't look too long. Don't try to act hard. Just survive and maybe grow. I signed up for every class they had, GED, then creative writing, then parenting workshops, even though I didn't have a kid. Something about learning how to care, it helped me learn how to feel again. There was this one program, Victim Awareness. That one nearly broke me. We watched real people, mothers, fathers, brothers, talk about what crime did to their lives. Their voices cracked. Some couldn't even finish their sentences. I'll never forget one woman. Her son had been shot during a robbery. She looked straight into the camera and said, "You didn't just take my son. You took my sleep. You took my smile." I felt sick. I wasn't that shooter. But I had been someone's nightmare once too. That's when I stopped running from it. I started writing letters to my mom. Real ones. No lies. No pretending I was doing fine. I told her the truth, that I was working on myself, that I wasn't expecting her to forgive me, but I was going to earn my place back in her life. The first time she wrote back, I cried over every word. "I never stopped praying for you," she said, "but I needed to know you were praying for yourself." I was. I prayed in the chapel. I prayed in my cell. I prayed when I was mopping blood off the hallway floor after a fight I wasn't even part of. Not for miracles, not for early release, just for strength, to not go back to who I was. I mentored young inmates through a reading program, helped one guy pass his GED after he failed it 3 times. He hugged me when he passed. No one had hugged me in 10 years. That moment, that felt like redemption. I stopped seeing myself as the victim. I stopped blaming the system, the streets, my past. I started owning what I'd done. That doesn't mean I forgot or forgave myself completely. I don't think I ever will. But I learned to live with it, to use it. The past can crush you or it can shape you. I chose to let it shape me into something better. Not perfect, not holy, just better, more human, more whole. And that for me was redemption. 17 years. That number lived in my bones, etched into every thought, every breath. And then, one morning they opened the gate, just like that. No music, no fireworks, just a buzz, a clank, and a guard saying, "You're up." I walked out with a plastic bag, 3 books, 1 sweatshirt, a folder of release papers, and a heart that didn't know how to beat in freedom. The sun hit different. It was too bright, too warm. I hadn't felt real sunlight on my face in so long it almost burned. I didn't cry. Not yet. My mom was waiting outside, older, smaller, but those eyes, still her eyes. She didn't say anything, she just hugged me, and I broke. Right there on the sidewalk, like a child. Years of anger, shame, silence, all of it spilling out. We stood there a long time. She didn't let go. Neither did I. Re-entry ain't easy. People think getting out is the end of the story. It's not. It's another beginning, just as hard, maybe harder. Try getting a job when your resume says inmate for the last 2 decades. Try explaining your past to people who only see your mugshot on Google. I worked odd jobs, construction, kitchen, anything that take me. Woke up at 4 a.m., caught 2 buses, came home dead tired. But I didn't complain because I was free. I rented a small room behind a church, no TV, just a mattress, a Bible, and a window that faced the sunrise. That window meant more to me than any mansion ever could. I started speaking at local schools, telling kids my story, not to scare them, but to wake them up. One boy came up after and said, "You remind me of my brother, he's locked up too." I told him, "Tell him it's not too late, because it isn't." I go back to the prison sometimes, as a mentor now. That same yard, those same walls, but I walk in different, stand taller. Not because I'm better, but because I made it out with my soul still intact. I still have nightmares, still carry the guilt. Some days, I question if I deserve this second chance. But then I remember the promise I made to the man I used to be, that if I ever got out, I'd never waste it. And I haven't. I'm not the boy who pulled that mask over his face all those years ago. I'm a man now, a man who knows pain, who caused it, and who's learning day by day to heal from it. Redemption isn't clean, it's messy, it's hard, but it's real. If you're listening to this and you're on the edge, maybe you're locked up, maybe you're lost, maybe you think it's too late, it's not. Every breath is a chance to choose better, to be better. I'm living proof. I'm not proud of my past, but I'm proud of who I've become.